This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
The idea is that we would start talking about Chapter 20, Visitations, and our symbol is the Lanfear symbol, the moon and stars.
I like just the Lanfear symbol.
Yeah, that's what I call it.
That's all it is. It's just her sigil.
Oh, that's right, Celine's sigil. I'm going to read the last line of the Chapter 19. The door opened.
Wow, long. The last three words of Chapter 19.
Yeah.
Nice.
The door opened. The woman who came in, dressed all in white silk and silver, shut the door behind her and leaned back against it to study him with the darkest eyes Matt had ever seen. She was so beautiful, he almost forgot to breathe, with hair as black as night held by finely woven silver band, and as careful in repose as another woman would be dancing. He halfway thought he had knew her. But he rejected the idea out of hand. No man could ever forget a woman like her. You may be passable, I suppose, once you fill out again, she said, but for now, perhaps you could put on something. For an instant, Matt continued to stare at her. Then suddenly he realized he was standing there naked. Face scarlet, he shambled to the bed, pulled the blanket around himself like a cloak, and more fell than sat down on the edge of the mattress. I'm sorry I didn't expect, he drew a deep breath. I apologize for you finding me this way.
I have only one question.
Huh?
Do you think he got an erection?
No. He's too weak for that.
Blood pressure's a little low. I just like to bring back evidence of low-level compulsion to make everyone think she looks gorgeous. And there's a line here I want to bring up. You know, he sees her and she's absolutely beautiful. There's a line here where he says, for the first time he studied her, able now to see more than her beauty. And it took him a while to get to that point, and I have to wonder if that was him trying to shake off a little bit of that like compulsion light we've talked about.
Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely think something's going on there. Because she does it to Rand, too. Like, suddenly she seemed younger. Suddenly she seemed even more beautiful.
Right. We have that description here where she's so beautiful, he almost forgot to breathe.
I also want to say, just very shortly, serious personal pet peeve of mine, people who knock and then just open the door. That's not what knocking is for. And it happens to him twice in this chapter.
Didn't I do that to you yesterday?
No, not really. I had a chance to respond.
Uh-huh. That's what moms do.
It just happened to me all the time in the bathroom at work, because it's a really busy place. And people like one tap and then like try to slam the door open. Like, Jesus Christ, you didn't even wait for...
I like that pet peeve. That's a good one. I haven't heard that before.
Right? I just always thought like you knock, pause, if nothing happens, then open the door.
I think there's two kinds of knocks. I think there's which is a question. That 1, 2, 3 is like, hey, Are you there? The knock and open is, I'm coming in.
Yeah.
And that's just like, I'm warning you that I'm coming in, but I'm coming in either way. And like, it's more polite to warn you that I'm coming in than to just open the door without a knock, but only barely.
Well, Lanfear and Swan don't seem to care because they just both open the door. Matt's naked in this entire chapter. I think he doesn't have clothes on for the entire time.
Yeah, he just has a blanket over his shoulders.
He's just standing there, and there's this circle of women moving through his room, and he's huddled, shielding himself with a blanket for 10 pages.
And not really even bothering. He's like a skeleton, too. He's like, no one wants to see that. Like, He's got no meat on his bones.
Discord was talking about this a second ago, but I really like that line too, where Lanfear says, like, you may be passable, I suppose, once you fill out again, but for now, why don't you put some clothes on?
Build up some muscle. For now,
you kind of look like a skeleton kid.
Clothes rack. Let's put some clothes on that clothes rack. I did notice we get that repeating joke.
Oh, the classic, yeah. Where Matt's like, I wish Perrin or Rand were here to consult about this, because I'm terrible with women. They all do it to the other two. I would not have visited you this way, Matt, except that I was here in the White Tower. She smiled as if the name amused her. For another purpose, and I wanted to see all of you. Matt's face reddened again. Of course, she's not talking about all of you, Matt. She means the three of you. Or perhaps the group from Emmons Field, the five.
I think she was referencing his nudity.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought she meant, like, she wanted to have a look at Matt, Perrin, Rand, Egwene, and Nynaeve.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
She hasn't met the girls yet.
It's good double entendre.
Yeah. Matt's face reddened, but I didn't think that's what she was talking about. He just misunderstands. That's a good question, Sam. Why is she amused? I think the name, the White Tower, amuses her. Maybe she's kind of smirking like this is not a tower. This is like just a large building to her, or everything to Lanfear seems quaint.
Yeah, I think she's making fun of the White Tower, the so-called Aes Sedai.
Yeah, she always says the so-called Aes Sedai.
It's the arrogance of the... I was wondering what her other purpose was, though. She's like, I was here in the tower for another purpose. I don't think she's lying about that.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. The last time we saw her was in Perrin's dream, and she was Lanfear was in the White Tower studying something.
She was looking through a book.
Yeah.
So maybe she's there to find some information, possibly prophecies of the dragon.
But she is doing something in the tower and has been for a little bit. It's been days, I think, since the Perrin chapter. Looking for Masana is a good question. Yeah.
Possibly Angreal, but I honestly think she's looking for information.
Yeah, I would think if Lanfear wanted to steal one of the Sangreal or something, she would be able to do that fairly easily. I mean, first she would have to find them. It was probably the hardest part for her.
It's a bit of a plot hole, I think, because at one of the meetings of the Chosen, they go like, we just couldn't find any Angreal anywhere. And it's like, really? You couldn't, go to the White Tower and find the Angreal that they have there and take them? It's just one of those things, I feel like I've never gotten a good answer for it. Maybe they just don't, want to get trapped in the White Tower. That's the only thing I can think of, is that, it's just a little dangerous. But Masana's there the whole time. You don't think she could,
And we know about the different alarm systems. Maybe they're more afraid, what I just saw suggested in Discord, that they could be exposed. Because any of the Forsaken, if they were confronted by a handful of Aes Sedai, could easily be cut off from the source.
Yeah, but Masana, as Danielle, is part of the Hall. She's got to have access.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And you've got Balal and Tyr with all of the Angreal in the heart that are stored up there. Or I don't know if they're stored in the heart, but they're stored. It just seems like there are so many caches of Angreal that the Forsaken should have had access to. My only guess is they weren't sharing them.
Yeah.
Does Lanfear actually have a really incredible, really powerful Angreal right now?
I didn't think she had that yet. I thought she gets it in Shadow Rising from Ruidian. Bananas is making a good point. That I see a lot of talk about this online, where some people think that she has one all the time, and some people think that she doesn't get one until somewhere around now. So maybe she steals an Angreal from the tower that the sisters don't even know what it is. Plow forward?
Yeah. Let's get off of page 1.
Yes. And then I have, she says you were hungry, that's to be expected, the way they do things.
Which is the
a specific
really
type of healing.
Yeah.
Pardon, Matt said diffidently, but do I know you? And they have met, but Matt doesn't remember.
When was that? I was trying to remember, and I couldn't come up with the time when they actually encountered each other.
Well, I guess Lanfear says, you may have seen me, she said finally, somewhere. Call me Celine. In his dreams? Could they have possibly run into each other in Cairhien when Celine's running around and Matt shows up, right as she disappears?
She also teleported Rand away with the portal stone.
Yeah.
When he was with Matt.
We know that she's been around where Matt has been.
She definitely has observed Matt and knows an awful lot about Matt. My question is, has he ever actually seen her before? And I couldn't think of a single situation.
Me neither. I take Lanfear for, I think she's being truthful here, or being literal when she says, you may have seen me.
Oh, just like you may have seen me around.
Like, we've been around in the same place, but we've never been introduced before.
Well, and we know he has some holes in his memory. So that's what I was saying is maybe they had encountered each other and he just didn't remember it.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen that on screen in the books.
Yeah, no proper interactions like Sam is saying, but
Surely Rand has described her to Matt.
I would think so. And she's also flitting around when they're chasing the horn with the Shinarans. Remember, like, Uno sees her.
Yeah, totally. But I don't think Matt ever catches a glimpse of her.
This does say her head tilted slightly. She appeared to be waiting for him to recognize the name. It tugged at the edges of memory. He thought he must have heard it before, but he could not say when or where.
Celine?
Yeah.
That's got to be from Rand telling him the story, because we know they hung out
in
the
for a
Mountains
few
of
days.
Mist.
Yeah.
No, I guess not in the Mountains of Mist, because at that time Matt was out.
Well, and even in Cairhien, they were there for a few days before everything happened.
Sure.
In between Illuminators and Civil War.
Right.
There's like a few days.
So we're assuming that Rand told him the story of meeting Celine in the portal world.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Are you an Aes Sedai, Celine? No. The word was soft, but surprisingly emphatic.
She's definitely not an Aes Sedai.
She was an Aes Sedai.
She was. Well,
thousands of years ago.
That's a good point. She was. A different kind of Aes Sedai, and that was before she was Forsaken.
Yeah. She doesn't even consider herself a dark friend. We've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
She's better than that in her mind.
She considers dark friends followers of Baalzamon, who is Ishmael, which makes sense to me. If he's been out in the world, and we talk about him coming out every 1,000 years, he would have time to recruit his dark friends and create this following and make sure that it was still going.
Yeah.
And Lanfear would disdain of them.
I'll skip forward just for a second. A dark friend, Celine said mockingly. She sounded amused, not angered. She sounded contemptuous. One of those pathetic followers of Baalzamon who think he will give them immortality and power? I follow no one. There is one man I could stand beside, but I do not follow. And that's, in a nutshell, what she thinks of all that. But that's after the glory pitch. Which is coming up right now.
Yeah, there's a couple of times where the so-called Aes Sedai pops up during the glory pitch, but go ahead and give me the glory pitch.
These Aes Sedai mean to use you, but you will like it, in the main, I think, and accept it. There's no need to convince you to seek out glory. Use me, Matt responds. What do you mean? I'm no one important. I'm no use to anyone but myself. What kind of glory? I knew that would pull you. You above all. I think she's right, in a way. That Matt would be the most susceptible to, like, hey, you want to be rich and famous?
Sure.
Perrin and Rand are like, no. I don't want any of that. But even Matt's like, listen, they're not really interested in me. I'm just a farmer. Just a simple countryman. I only want to see a little of the world and go back to my Da's farm. What does she mean, glory?
I'd like to really point out the contrast in that sentence between what he's thinking and what he's saying. They're not interested in me. What about the horn? I'm just a farmer. Maybe they think I'm tied to Rand.
Yeah.
Because, like,
I'm a simple countryman. But he's saying there's something interesting about glory.
Right, yeah, no, he has these thoughts, and then what comes out of his mouth is in direct contradiction to those thoughts.
It's true.
You got to look at Matt on 3 levels. It's what makes him an interesting character. What he says, what he thinks, and what he does.
Are always different.
Always different.
The 3 never really line up.
But yet they always make sense if you assume that he's lying to himself about how good-hearted he is, which is what makes him a great character.
It does make him interesting.
Doesn't want to admit he's a good person.
So he's like, those fools deserve to all die throwing themselves into that situation. I'm not going to go running in after them. And as he begins running,
And, like, he definitely wants wealth, but it's something that, I mean, obviously with his luck, it comes easily. But I don't feel like it's something that he needs.
No, it's kind of a sideline.
Right.
He's like, I'm broke. Better do something about that.
Yep.
That's pretty much as far as Matt's planning goes.
I feel like he'd always be able to scam some money.
Oh, yeah. It's the first thing he does. He's like going through his possessions.
That's right.
And he's like, there's like a list of things, and he's like, cool, this is all here. And then there's a moment, and he's like, shit, where's my dice? And he's goes rummaging around, and then he finds them.
Which is funny because he doesn't even really use his dice.
No?
A lot of the times he uses other people's dice because
sure.
he's so lucky he doesn't want to think he's using weighted dice.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you tell we're like mooning over Matt here? We're like, oh, this is the Matt we know and love.
Here it comes.
Yeah, we're totally both like, because the luckiest night is such an awesome night, and we're both really excited about that.
And I just realized, because I was like, I read through the 2 chapters we were going to do tonight, 20 and 21. And then 22 is awesome. 22 is Egwene leaving Varen's rooms, and Shiriam like intercepts her, and she's like, hey, you're going through the rings now. And I was like, oh shit. So I read that. And then 23 is Matt waking up and being like, well, I'm going to go do some stuff. And he goes and beats up Galad and Gawain.
A lot of these books, they have a little bit of recap. They have a little bit of setup. And they take like 20 chapters or so to hit their stride. And like really right about now in the story in The Dragon Reborn is when this book is like hitting its stride and really like telling a story as opposed to setting up a story. And then, of course, the end of it is a great avalanche conclusion. But, you know, I'm really excited because here's where things start to become fast-paced. And The Dragon Reborn is such a good book. And a lot of these classic scenes we see that I think of when I think of The Wheel of Time happen in this book. And I'm really excited to get to them.
Oh, I want to bring this up before its history. Ferengi said his constant appraisal is the start of the strategy genius. I like that she brought that up because we were talking about this in a recent chapter where Matt is always thinking about how his father would always like see a problem and then think about it from every possible angle and then do something. And he thinks about that a lot. He thinks about his dad.
It's the last 2 lines of this chapter.
Always getting the best possible deal in his horse trades because he's thinking about what everyone else around him is thinking.
There had to be a way. All he had to do was think about it from every angle. The pie grew cold on the table.
Yeah.
He's
laying there like, yeah, how do I get out of this?
Mm-hmm. And that's the chess playing, stones playing, strategic general that is willing to roll the dice, but only when the odds are in his favor.
Yes.
Even though he's not an educated man, for example, let's look at his letters. He is a smart man.
Yes, but he's, unpolished. I think is another quality that a lot of people like about him. But reeling it in.
Sure.
I read the Dark Friend thing a second ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Matt has a thought, well, a Dark Friend wouldn't name herself a Dark Friend. She's probably got a poison knife if she is.
That's a reference to a Millie Skane.
Yeah. Matt, you must learn to trust me. Oh, I will use you, too. You have too suspicious a nature, especially since carrying that dagger, for me to deny it. But my use will gain you wealth, and power, and glory. I will not compel you. I have always believed men perform better if convinced rather than forced. Which is wise and telling about Lanfear.
Yeah, but the second he starts to balk later, I think she does try and throw a little compulsion his way.
I think so, but I think she uses more like low-level charm, and like she wants them to make up their mind that what she's telling them to do is the best thing to do.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. But I'm saying specifically here with Matt.
Yeah.
There's a second where I think we see her.
Oh, she's about to do something.
Do some compulsion on him when she gets interrupted.
Mm-hmm. I admit I will use you. These eyes said I will never do that. I will lead you to wealth and glory. They will keep you tied to a leash until you die. You say a lot, Matt said, but how do I know any of it is true? How do I know I can trust you any more than I can them? By listening to what they tell you and what they do not. Will they tell you your father came to Tarvalin? My Da was here? A man named Abel Cawthon and another named Tam Althor. They made nuisances of themselves until they gained an audience, I have heard.
So that tells me Lanfear wasn't around back then. She was just getting information from folks about what happened.
And posing as novices, or as a novice.
I guess I didn't really have a lot to say to that other than she's sort of using the truth and the fact that the Aes Sedai don't like to share information against them.
She cleverly twists this to her favor.
Yeah.
She says Rand al'Thor is trying to escape and Moraine is hunting him, which is roughly true?
Kind of. Not, but at the same time, not. Moraine is trying to track him to help him, and he's not trying to escape. He's going to somewhere, not away from them. He just wants to do it on his own to protect them, not to get away from them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a total misinterpretation of what the facts are.
Right. And then she brings us up the Black Aja as well, and she says, like, I bet they won't tell you any of these things. And they don't, but why would they?
Right, yeah, it's like they keep secrets. And using the fact that they keep secrets against them to make them sound evil is very, very easy.
Yeah.
Even when their intentions are good.
He's surprised that Rand is trying to escape, and he wonders if she knows that Rand has proclaimed himself the Dragon Reborn. He suspects she may not know that Rand's not running away. And Matt knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least he suspects that.
She's twisting the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it's very possible that they would have told him about his father, but it wasn't the first thing they said to him when they walked in the door.
I'm nodding.
Because they do want him to stay there for a while. And if they had said, yeah, your dad came looking for you, he might want to leave that much sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes sense not necessarily to share that right away.
Just remember that there is another choice, she says basically. Do as these Aes Sedai wish for the present, but remember your choices. Will you do that?
And that's, I think I've laid this out. Like, if you want someone to choose what you want them to choose, lay out 2 or 3 choices, 2 of which are untenable, and then give them the only tenable choice. And like, you just point them in that direction. But Matt doesn't want to be stuck in a box, and he always chooses something else.
Yeah.
But she's trying to manipulate him.
But Matt responds, I don't see that I have much of a choice at all. He said glumly, I suppose I will. Celine's look sharpened. Friendliness slewed. Slewed? Sloughed? Slewed.
Sloughed.
Sloughed. Friendliness sloughed off her face like an old snakeskin. Suppose? I did not come to you like this to talk to you in this way for suppose, Matrim Cawthon.
Where he says suppose, which is not the response she wanted. She wanted enthusiastic, yes, glory, wealth, great, yay, fuck the White Tower, fuck the Dark Friends. And she got, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and Matt just sees like, yeah, you want me to do stuff, they want me to do stuff, like there's no escaping any of that. Well, and, you know, what he actually wants is just to escape all of it. He just wants to get away from all of them. I feel like Lanfear is unknowingly grouping, in Matt's head, he's just grouping her in the same category as them. He's like, these are a bunch of people who are going to try to tell me what to do. Here's all of them. Some of them have competing interests, but I don't give a shit about any of that.
No. I'm getting the hell out of here.
He's like, I just want to play some dice, wander back home slowly, see some of the big cities, and then go home.
Well, maybe not home.
No, but that's what he says. Going back to think, says, does are always different.
Right.
Yeah.
He says he wants to go home. He thinks he wants to go make some money, and he does go make some money.
All right, she says, I did not come to you like this, talk to you in this way for suppose, Matrim Cawthon. She stretched out a slim hand. Her hand was empty, and she stood halfway across the room, but he leaned back, away from her hand, as if she were right on top of him with a dagger. He did not know why, really, except that there was a threat in her eyes, and he was sure it was real. His skin began to tingle, and his headache returned. Suddenly, tingle and pain vanished together, and Celine's head whipped around as if listening to something beyond the walls. A tiny frown appeared on her face, and she lowered her hand. The frown vanished. We will talk again, Matt.
Couple of things there. What is she doing? Why does she stop? And why is his headache returning? Starting from the end. Headache returning. I just looked up in the book. I don't see the word headache anywhere in this chapter.
No.
Or anywhere else in this book. There was no headache earlier, so why is his headache returning?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but his skin began to tingle, and his headache returned. She's starting to do something to him.
Absolutely. I think it's compulsion. I think he says, I suppose, and she's like, I didn't come here for suppose. I'm going to make you do what I say when I say it.
I think his skin was tingling because Lanfear is channeling.
I think she was affecting him. I think he was feeling the But yeah, that is an interesting point that like only channelers can get the goosebumps when a female is channeling. So the skin tingling must have been something else. Must have been some way her weave was affecting him.
Maybe it's just anxiety.
There is a debate in the fan community around this paragraph because there is some. I've seen speculation that the dice Terangrial that were stolen by the Black Aja, the 13 women, Leandrin's group, when they left Tarvalin. And we haven't seen it yet, but that will appear in a list. The timing is right that they could have stolen that, given it to Lanfear, and she could be using the dice Terangrial on him to maybe change the odds of what he wants to do or somehow alter his personality. And then the speculation is that somehow she's interrupted and that causes unexpected effects that leads to Matt's luck.
I never quite bought that.
I don't buy it either.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that is one of the arguments.
A lot of people
out there.
do think
A lot
that,
of people
yeah.
do think that. But we see people get the chills when healing or any sort of effect is used on them. Delving. Yeah, a lot of them. So it's very possible that she was getting ready to do something to him and then she was interrupted. Also, I think the dice Terangrial would have been in her hand when she stretched it out. It says specifically her hand was empty.
Yeah.
Now, we don't see her other hand.
That's true.
But my question is, how? Yeah, I don't see any way that it could be related to the dice Terangrial, even though there's something of a red herring. So we think compulsion gets interrupted. So I guess that takes us to the first question of why is she interrupted?
I assumed when I read that paragraph that she's listening to anything coming. So she already has weaves in place so that she will know if someone is coming. It could also be like
inverted weaves?
Sure.
Yeah.
It could also be like a kind of ward where just if someone walks down the hall, she gets a little ding in her ear. So she knows. Because she knows Swan walks in like moments later. Matt only has a minute where he's standing alone.
Real-time follow-up. Mackenzie found the fact that he had a stabbing pain in his head in the previous chapter.
Oh.
So that's just, he actually had a headache already.
I wonder what she could be doing that, because it seems like whatever Lanfear is attempting to do is putting stress on Matt's body. That's kind of my line of thought here, that he starts to feel tired again. So, could she be healing him? Is there a fleck of Shadar Logoth left, like Swan thinks there might be, and she takes it away?
So the headache and the pain, here's interesting. In the previous chapter, he gets a pain in his head when he thinks about the dagger.
Yeah.
It might be that, what she's doing is accessing that, whatever little bit of connection is left to Shadar Logoth and taking that away from him. She may actually be saving him from what's left of the Shadar Logoth taint.
Lauren Sedai says, was she healing or easing his pain? Then when she didn't get the answer she wanted, she stopped?
No, because I think the pain had gone away before she walked into the room.
That's a good idea, though. I don't know. There's no way. We don't have much to go on here. But something happens, and Lanfear knows that Swan is coming. Swan and Leanne are walking down the hall.
Okay, so you think that's the fact that the two of them are coming?
Yeah, that's what interrupts her.
Oh, it feels like he has some time in the room before they show up.
Yeah, but I mean, she has to have time to slip out of the room. Like if Swan had been right outside, she would have seen Lanfear leave. And she surely would have stopped to question a strange woman who shouldn't know that anyone's in there and shouldn't be anywhere near her pet project here. So Lanfear would have to, I'm sure that she was careful enough that she set up some kind of a system, whether she's listening or feeling with some weave, to know that somebody was approaching.
I mean, I think the sentence, Celine's head whipped around as if listening to something beyond the walls, is pretty clear that something is triggering her weaves.
She knows that something is coming somehow.
Right.
And there's plenty of ways that she could do that.
Fair enough. My only question is, was there anything else that she could have been, like, listening for that may have happened. But I can't think of anything else that was going on at
No.
the time that would have been significant. Like the testing clearly wasn't going on.
Yeah, I could speculate some more. Like, it's possible that Swan or Leanne channeled in the hallway
Sure.
as they were approaching, and she could have known that way. But I would expect that Lanfear would be careful enough to not be seen.
Agreed.
Because she has to leave the door. Like, she'll freak Matt out if she
Just
gateways
vanishes.
right out from inside the room.
Fair enough.
So she has to close the door and then gateway out. Or, as Obi Thunder is saying, or someone is saying, Obi Thunder is saying to tell Aran Rayad out. She could.
I don't think Lanfear does much Teleron Riyadh in the flesh.
Probably not. She seems smarter than that. But,
I feel like she only dreams her way in because she's a dream walker.
Yeah.
I always thought she was just a gateway. She would just use a gateway to get out. Or most likely, because we see her shortly thereafter in the White Tower, she just used the Mask of Mirrors to appear someone different or just to be invisible.
Yes. Well, in any case, Matt decides that he's not going to tell anyone about this.
Looks at his money. Goes, that's not very much money, but with my dice cups, at least I can...
Thinks about trying to explain what just happened to the Aes Sedai, and then the last line is, and you don't mind if I leave now, right? And he's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Then he just thinks going was beginning to be a better idea by the minute. He's getting more and more eager the longer he's awake to get the hell out.
Because he realizes everybody's going to want to use him.
Yeah.
And he remembers he blew the horn. And he's like, yeah, this is bad. I want nothing to do with Aes Sedai.
2 silver marks and a handful of copper, he muttered. I won't get far on that. Once it would have seemed a small fortune to him, but that had been before he left Emmons Field. He stooped to peer back into the shelf. Where are they?
Yeah, I mean, he goes nuts at a silver penny that Moraine gives him back in Emmons Field, and that's much smaller than a silver mark. He
began to be afraid the Aes Sedai might have thrown them out, the way his mother would have if she ever found them. Where, he felt a surge of relief. Way in the back, behind his tinderbox and ball of twine for snares and the like, were his 2 leather dice cups. They rattled as he pulled them out. Just like that the dice are rattling already, even though that's real dice in the real world.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah, I just liked it. And he notes that he has 2 sets of dice for one set for 2 different kinds of games.
Right, spots and crowns.
Yeah.
Spots of the dice that we always have, the 1 through 6 spotted dice. They have pips on them.
Yeah.
Which is where his horse name comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Crowns is a little more symbolic, I guess.
Yeah, I figure it's roughly similar. But symbols instead of numbers.
And you may have like 2 crowns or something like that. I don't really know how it works.
I don't remember.
Crown, roses, rods, stars, cups, and swords.
A peremptory knock was followed immediately by the door opening. He whirled around. The Amerlin's seat and the Keeper of Chronicles were entering. He would have recognized them even without the Amerlin's broad-striped stole and the Keeper's narrower blue stole, because he saw them in Thaldara.
Mm-hmm.
He met them. The Amerlin's eyes...
There's that one knock and enter
you were
complaining about earlier.
The door is opening. Wow. That's the way I picture it.
Followed immediately by the door opening.
The Amerlin's eyebrows rose at the sight of him standing there with a blanket hanging from his shoulders and his purse and dice cups in his hands. I don't think you will need those for a while yet, my son, she said dryly. Put them up and get back to bed before you fall on your face. He hesitated, his back stiffening, but his knees chose that moment to wobble.
These are like the 2 most sarcastic characters in this entire book talking to each other. Like Suan and her fish analogies and Matt and his boot analogies. And
How are you feeling? The Amerlin asked briskly as she put a hand on his head. Goosebumps covered his skin. Had she done something to him with the one power? Or was it being touched by an Aes Sedai that made him feel a chill?
I think Suan is delving him there.
Yes.
And that's very similar to the sensation he got earlier when Lanfear was about to compel him or do something to him.
Do something.
Yeah. So possibly she was delving.
But Swan is, asking him, how are you? But before he even answers, she's like puts a hand on his head and she is finding the answer for herself.
Great bedside manner. Yeah, if you've ever been in a hospital, the nurses will do that to you. They'll walk in and be like, how are you? And like check your Like, look at your
Yeah.
stats, and like, be like, I'm dying slowly over here. Do you
Make
and
yourself feel better by talking while I figure out
exactly.
the facts. Yeah. Let's pretend your opinion matters.
Right. It doesn't at all. The machines tell me everything. The delving tells me everything.
I'm fine, he told her. Why? I'm ready to be on my way. Just let me say goodbye to Egwene and Nynaeve, and I'll be out of your hair. I mean, I will go, mother.
Awkward.
Nonsense, the Emerald said. Men always seem to refuse to admit they are sick until they're sick enough to make twice as much work for women. Then they claim they're well too soon, with the same result.
Because then you get sicker.
Yeah. The keeper glanced at Matt and nodded. Yes, mother. Yet this one cannot claim he is well when he can barely stand up. At least he has eaten everything on his tray. And he tries to fast talk his way out of the room some more, even though he's quivering in bed, naked under a blanket. I'm not hungry at all, he announced. I'm fine. If you let me put my clothes on, I'll show you how well I am. I'll be out of here before you know it. It's not working, Matt.
I have nothing to say about this section other than I really enjoy reading it.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's just watching him like try and make up excuses and her just like
I'm fine, I'm fine. And the Emerald's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You're nearly dead. He's like, no, I'm not hungry. I'm fine.
And you're gonna try and escape, so don't bother. Because I told all the guards you couldn't go.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really important point.
I read you aright the first time I saw you, the Emerald said. I knew right then you'd bolt like a startled fisher bird if you ever thought someone was trying to hold you. As well, I took precautions. And she tells him that all the gate guards and the dock masters and everyone has your description, and don't try to leave the city, because we'll drag you back.
Yeah, the only way to get out of the city is some letter from the Emerald seat telling people you can do whatever you want. No way you're getting a hold of that, Matt.
Kind of at the end of this, Matt says, I can feed myself. With 2 silver marks and a handful of copper, my son, your dice would need to be very lucky indeed to buy all the food you'll need in the next few days.
Very lucky indeed.
Very lucky. Swan's trying to explain, like, listen, I can't let you leave because we just worked really hard, and if we made the tiniest error, you will die, and possibly also, although she doesn't say this, spread Mashadar to the world and destroy everything.
Matt is like the worst patient a hospital can ever get. It's like, you're still sick, you need to recover, and he's like up and trying to get out, and like, we'd like to observe you for a few days. Like, why? You already healed me. What's the problem? I'm healed. You don't have to look at me. I'm fine. Like, we don't know that. Like, we want to make sure that we did everything correct. Nope, I'm good. Nurses hate him.
Would you set sail in a boat when you didn't know whether the caulking would hold, or if a plank might be rotten? I never had much to do with boats, Matt muttered.
Who knows what effect you're having it in your possession for so long may have. A year from now, you may wish you had an Aes Sedai. That's about when the last battle is, about a year from now.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that, this is heavy foreshadowing for that effect that the dagger has on him long term, which apparently is making him immune to the dagger.
And in this part is where Matt tries fishing for answers based on the information that Celine gave him.
Sure, he's like trying to catch them in a lie without actually telling them that he already knows the information.
I've been gone from home a long time, Mother. My da and my mother probably think I'm dead. And she only says, if you'd like to send them a letter, we'll do that.
Doesn't mention that he came and visited.
Matt waited for more, but no more came. Thank you, Mother. He essayed a small laugh. I'm half surprised my dad didn't come looking for me. He's the kind of man who would. He was not sure, but he thought there was a small hesitation before the Emerald answered. He did come. Leanne spoke to him.
He caught her in a I wouldn't call it a lie, but
withholding the truth.
There's no way to respond to that without saying, I can't say, oh, no, he didn't, or like, you just have to change the subject.
Right.
It's an omission, so there's no way you can just not say it.
He did come. Leanne spoke to him. The keeper took it up immediately. We did not know where you were then, Matt. I told him so, and he left before the heavy snows. I gave him some gold to make the journey home easier. I thought that was a little interesting because it made me wonder if Swan knew but Leanne didn't. So Swan deferred this task to Leanne because she didn't know. So she could say, honestly, I don't know where he is. Why is Leanne answering?
Possibly. It's possible that there are things that
Swan knew that
Swan
Leanne didn't.
knew that she didn't want to tell.
Matt notes, they had told him, but he had to ask.
Why don't you think they mention Rand's dad? Do you think it's just because...
They're just telling him as little as they
little,
possibly can get away with.
Typical Aes Sedai, hide as much as you can.
Yeah.
Try not to share anything you don't absolutely need to.
And he'll be harder to control if they give him all the information that they have.
But it does make him suspicious.
Matt asks about Rand. The Amerlin says, honestly, who can say? I haven't heard word since I saw him in Faldara, which...
Well,
she doesn't say I haven't
word.
heard word. She says, I haven't seen him.
I haven't seen him, yeah. So that's tricky, because she's definitely heard word, but she hasn't actually seen him?
Yeah, I didn't even catch that. She says, the boy is well enough, but who can say? I have seen him only once, the time I saw you in Faldara.
And then she immediately goes, all right, let's shut him up with some cake and pie.
How'd you like some pie, kid?
Shut your pie hole. Stuff it with some pie.
And she sends Leanne out to go fetch the food.
Which I think is just an excuse to get her out of the room so she can actually talk to Matt.
Nodding wholeheartedly. She says, there are things that would be dangerous for you to talk about. Perhaps even in front of Leanne. A flapping tongue has killed more men than a sudden storm ever did.
Don't mention Rand.
Or the horn.
Yeah. Dangerous, Mother? What's dangerous? Do you remember the horn?
Mother, yeah, I don't know anything about dangerous. Do you remember the horn? What horn is that, Mother?
Don't fuck with me.
She was on her feet, looming over him so fast he hardly saw her move. You play games with me, boy, and I will make you weep for your mother to come running. I have no time for games, and neither do you. Now do you remember?
Says the most powerful woman in Randland.
Pathetic, Matt. Clutching the blanket tightly around him, he had to swallow before he could say, I remember, Mother.
Yes, Mother. I just imagine his voice going up like 3 octaves.
Yes,
yes, Mother.
I mean, it's all in her character description and everything, but I imagine Swan as a very intimidating lady.
Oh, yeah. And so she gives him the information dump about the horn only working for him and nobody else.
And how dangerous that is, how dangerous that is for him, if anyone were to find out.
Because there's only 2 options.
You blow the horn for someone, or...
somebody else blows the horn. There's only one way you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
Now, it just so happens he dies a few times, but, well, I'm firmly of the opinion that he only actually dies once.
Balefire time?
Balefire time.
Camelin.
Well, there's 2 balefire times. The 3 deaths I'm thinking of is the hanging, the Darkhound slobber, and the lightning.
Yes, right.
And balefire, hanging, Rand saves him through CPR.
Yeah, he doesn't die.
But he doesn't die. He's just unconscious, and his heart's not technically beating. But he's not dead.
And the slobber, he would die.
Died.
Yeah.
But the balefire prevented it from ever getting that bad. The lightning, he did die. And then time was changed, and he undied. So that's why the horn, he stays connected with the horn until killed by lightning by Ravine.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rand super balefires Ravine and undoes a lot of what's going on in that battle. I mean, but so many people are killed by lightning. That's sort of the funny thing is, like, it's this big special thing for Matt, but, like, Moraine is killed, Asmodean is killed, like, Avienda is killed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they all come back from death.
We've talked about this line before, where Swan says, you remind me of my uncle, Juan. No one could ever pin him down. He liked to gamble, too, and he'd much rather have fun than work. He died pulling children out of a burning house. He wouldn't stop going back as long as there was one left inside. Are you like him, Matt? Will you be there when the flames are high?
Is this analogy used twice for Matt? I thought it was used somewhere else in the books.
Does Swan say it again, maybe?
Maybe. But it's it's a very iconic image of Matt, which is the lazy guy.
It's a great kind of description, yeah.
Until he has to pull children out of a burning house. Yeah, Egwene later gives us a story about him he tries to rescue one kid from drowning, but it turns out he didn't need it, and they made fun of him, and then he rescues another kid from drowning, takes the same risk even though he got made fun of, and actually rescues the second kid. So, yeah, I mean, he is the kind of person who pulls people out of the water in an emergency.
Yeah.
Or, accepted out of a dungeon in the Stone of Tyr.
He could not meet her eyes. He studied his fingers as they plucked irritably at his blanket. I'm no hero. I do what I have to do. I'm no hero. Most of those we call heroes only did what they had to do. I suppose it will be enough, for now. You must not speak to anyone but me of the horn, my son, or of your link to it. And then Matt says, why? Don't you trust all your Aes Sedai?
No.
For a long moment, he thought he had gone too far. Her face hardened, and her look could have carved axe handles.
I think she's mostly just thinking of the black.
Oh, yeah. She knows that she can't trust her Aes Sedai.
Right.
If I could make it so that only you and I knew, she said coldly, I would.
She says Shale Ghul knows it has been found.
Mm-hmm.
How do they know? And two, how does she know they know?
Does she know that one of the people she says that she could trust is Black Aja? She says she thinks she can trust?
I mean, unless maybe they know what happened at Falma. Just because, like, Falma is obvious enough. They know the horn was blown, but...
You can't really miss Falma.
No. But I'm just wondering, like, what is she basing that statement on? Is it Varen? Is that something Varen told her? Which would make sense, because Varen could be like, yes, a dark friend found out about the horn and told them, when really she's talking about herself.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that Egwene is like, yes, Varen was poisoned by a dark friend.
Yeah.
But I really do think that information that Shale Ghul knows it's been found is Varen just telling the Amyrlin, yeah, Shale Ghul knows about this, because I told them. I mean, she doesn't say I told them, but...
A dark friend told them.
A dark friend told them.
But then Swan says, but they do not know where it is, and if the light shines on us, they do not know you sounded it, which is not true. The Black knows where it is, and they know that Matt sounded it.
Yep.
So that tells me that we talked about this earlier as we had just finished this, but that sounds like we see Varen doing these double-sided things all the time, where she perhaps tells Swan that, yes, like the shadow knows that the horn has been found, but they don't know where it is, where she's like giving information that's important while also withholding information because she has to play both sides.
I think a prime example of that is with the Dream Terran-Grial, where she
Yes.
gives the Dream Terran-Grial, but not the research papers that go with it.
She gives the tool, but not the instructions on how to use it.
Right.
Because you were saying before, and I thought this was a really good idea, that she could plausibly deny that she had helped Egwene by saying, no, I put her into danger by giving her the dream ring. When, in fact, when that is true, but she's also giving Egwene a powerful tool at the same time.
Oh, Bananas McGee has a good point. Dark Friends stole it,
Oh,
ran
Jesus,
off with it,
yeah.
and Rand had to track them down. So part of that whole story is that Dark Friends know that the horn exists because they stole it.
Yes, Trollocs, all that.
Yeah.
Murdral. Yeah, how did I... Yeah.
Wow. Nice. Thank you for correcting.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was just dumb.
The only other thing I have, other than the readout, is just Matt saying, I thought the White Tower could keep Dark Friends out. He remembered what Selene had said about the Black Aja, and wondered what the Amyrlin would say to that. A good reason to stay, wouldn't you say?
What he thinks, yes, but that's
not an answer.
No, not an answer. I was going to agree with you on that. The only other thing is here, Suan emphasizes the myth that the horn will work for the Dark Friends as well as for the light.
Yes.
And we know that's not true.
Common misconception
Yep.
amongst the light. And then I have a long-ass readout. Swan leaves, and for a long time, Matt lay staring up at the ceiling. He barely noticed when a serving woman came with his piece of pie and another pitcher of milk, taking the tray of empty dishes when she went. His stomach rumbled loudly at the warm smell of apples and spices, but he paid no mind either. The Amyrlin thought she held him like a sheep in a pen, and Selene, who in the light is she? What does she want? Selene had been right about some things, but the Amyrlin had told him she meant to use him, and how. In a way, there was too many holes in what she had said to suit him, too many holes she could slip through something deadly. The Amyrlin wanted something, and Selene wanted something, and he was the rope they were tugging between them. He thought he would rather face Trollocs than be caught between those two. There had to be a way out of Tar Valon, a way out of both of their grasps. Once he was beyond the river, he could keep out of Aes Sedai hands, and Selene's, and dark friends too. He was sure of it. There had to be a way. All he had to do was think about it from every angle. The pie grew cold on the table. Good stuff, guys.
I do miss swimming. I've mostly replaced it with biking because I don't like the high impact of running.
Yeah.
But I can't swim anymore. So biking has been my substitute.
Me too.
Yeah, the one time I got into running, I did it barefoot on a treadmill because I found that shoes just hurt my knees.
That's awesome time, Travis. I've never run that fast of a mile. I once got into the 6-minute zone, but it was like a 6:58. And I felt like I was going to puke when I was done.
I'm pretty sure I never broke 7 minutes, probably never broke 8 minutes.
Yeah. And when I ran the really long distances, like a half marathon, I'm around like 10-minute mile. It's like pretty, I mean, not slow, but it's a jog because it takes me like 2 hours, something like that. Yeah, like 2 hours.
I'm loving seeing everybody's mile running times in Discord as they go by. We all have our talents.
I think I can hear the spear maidens laughing at all of you. Making fun of you on the other side of the room.
You wetlanders. So soft. I bet you couldn't even run 30 miles in a day.
I have a friend I met on the PCT, and I follow each other on Instagram. She ran like a 50K recently. I don't even know what that is. It's more than a marathon. She's trying to get to like the crazy levels, 31 miles.
But I've also talked to someone who trained for a year and got to the point where she ran her marathon. It was it was so much fun. I loved doing it, and it was a blast. And I was like, so you're going to do it again? No.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
Never.
Like, I did it. Done.
I'm
gonna go for my 2-mile jogs.
Yeah.
And enjoy myself.
26 miles is punishment.
What is that noise, Timber?
That's I want scratches. Timber's a talkative dog.
Yeah.
Like he makes a lot of noises that aren't just barking. He does a lot of whining and woofing and growling. I don't even know the right words for the noises he makes.
He's vocal. He's often not loud. He just knows how to ask for things. And
hey, get out of there.
I would love to do an ultra marathon at one point. I fell in love with the idea. I read about, I think it's called the Iron Hills Ultra or something like that. And it's crazy, but you are considered, I forget how many miles it was, but I remember reading about it on their website. It said something like you're considered a winner if you finish it within 30 hours or something like that. So it's like a run, walk, trail thing. There's probably a small amount of peanut butter on something.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?